Hi everyone, it's Jeff Rich here from the Burning Archive. Welcome to my live stream of the Nobel Prize for Literature announcement. It's happening in about half an hour, and I am glad you're able to join me here, and I think we're going to have a really great little half hour. Who is going to win the Nobel Prize? That is the question for tonight. Join me on this live stream, and we'll have a little sort of Eurovision or Academy Awards night or Brownlow Medal night for the literature types in the audience. So it is... What's it going to be? Will it be a complete surprise tonight? Will it be a highbrow choice or a popular choice like Stephen King or Bob Dylan? Will it be a man, a woman, or will it be the first transgender winner of the Nobel Prize? English or another language? Will it be a Western writer, or will this writer be from the global South, the not from the Western Alliance? Will it be part of the BRICS cultural bloc of the world? And will the war in Ukraine spill over to the politics of the Nobel Prize? All of these are the big questions for tonight. And I'm going to take you through that. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to quickly switch screens and run for you a little thing that I prepared earlier for your viewing pleasure while I have a bit of a chat in the countdown. And this is my little video that you can check on my YouTube channel, which tells you every single winner of the Nobel Prize since 1901. I'll just turn the desktop audio down a bit. Just there's a bit of music background there, just for when you can just chill out and listen to all those things. But I'll let it run there while I give you a bit of a preview of the Nobel Prize, which is going to be announced in Stockholm in about half an hour or so. Sometimes they run a bit late. I'll have to fill in if that's the case. So tonight we're going to cover all the excitement and why you should tune in to the Nobel Prize for Literature. We're going to look at some of the material I've been producing on the Nobel Prize recently on the YouTube channel, on my podcast, and also an article I published just today on Patrick White, the winner of the 1973 Nobel Prize for Literature, the only Australian to win the Nobel Prize 50 years ago. And I will talk about who's on the bookies list, what the odds are for the winners, and I'll talk you through the top 5 on that list, give you a bit of a profile, make a few suggestions on my wild cards, then we'll cover the announcement, and I will give you my reaction to the announcement. I've done a little bit of research on likely winners. I'll see how whether I've been able to pick the right people to focus on. Okay, let's get into it then. So, do you tune into the Nobel Prize for Literature each year? I have done for decades and decades, really. And it is it's an exciting time. It's a great time to discover a new writer, to discover a new culture and aspect of the world, of world history even. And it is often a controversial prize, but nowhere near as controversial as the Nobel Peace Prize. Of course, this is a Nobel's week. There are about 5 or 6 Nobel Prizes. There's one in chemistry and medicine, and there's a sort of pseudo Nobel Prize for economics. And of course, there's the Nobel Peace Prize, which is not awarded by the Swedish Academy, but by the a sort of a committee formed through the Norwegian Parliament. And the Nobel Peace Prize is being announced tomorrow night, but I'm not going to do a live stream about that. There's been a little bit of controversy maybe this week with the Medicine Prize, because it was awarded to people who designed the mRNA vaccine, although because of the all the controversies around COVID, but I think that's probably a pretty worthy winner. How about you? Leave us a comment if you like below, and if you're in the stream, do oh hi Anna Marie Simon, salut français. Merci for joining my view, Anna Marie. Feel free to put in your predictions for who will win the Nobel Prize in the chat by all means. Okay, so I am now going to just I've sort of lost my train of thought as I'm sort of handling all the technical details here. So it's a great way, it's a great reference point for books to read, books to plan to read. It's a great source for new material to make sure you're well-read, well-versed in all the cultures and literatures of the world. Of course, it's not an entirely representative sample, I guess, of the world's literature, but it's not a bad guide. And you can see in the little video that I'm sort of showing beside me that there have been many winners from many countries over the 120 years or so in which the prize has been. Okay, and earlier today on the Pearls and Irritations website in Australia, johnmenadue.com, I published my article on Patrick White, the winner of the 1973 Nobel Prize. I did a podcast and a video about it a week or two ago, and he talked about how, what the role of Patrick White is in Australian cultural history, and reflected on where is Australia now, 50 years on from the Nobel Prize. So check that out. You can go to johnmenadue.com. I think there's a link in the live stream if you want to check that out. And while you're at it, subscribe, like. You can also go to jeffrich.substack.com. I produce a weekly newsletter, and you can sort of hear more from me there. And in my newsletter on the weekend, it comes out on a Saturday morning, I will have a little bit more detail about the Nobel Prize, including my wrap on the winner tonight. Okay, so who is on the Wookiees prediction list? And here I might just pause our little video and go to another screen, and you can see there this comes from lithub.com. I think Emily Temple has put together current odds from a couple of weeks ago, I think it might have been, so this might have been changing, but you can see some of the authors there who are in the running to win tonight. There's Can Zhu from China, John Foss from Norway, Gerald Murnane, who is a great Australian writer. I've put a bunch of the Nobel Prize winning books that authors that I have there in behind me, including, of course, the biography on Patrick White. but I don't think I got out anything from Gerald Murnane, which was a bit of a faux pas on my part, especially if he ends up winning. Ludmila Uskaya and Carson, they're from Russia and Canada, respectively. Machaya, Cartorescu from Romania, and quite a few more. And if you can scroll down all the way down to the list, Stephen King is there at odds of nearly 50 to 1, as is Paul Simon. Could the Nobel Prize go to another singer-songwriter the way that did with Bob Dylan? There's probably a few sentimental favourites in this list too. Salman Rushdie at 14 to 1 odds. He's had a pretty rough ride the last couple of decades. Haruki Murakami, who has also been in the running, or rumoured to be in the running, for many years. The great experimental writer Thomas Pynchon. In fact, quite a few of these writers are quite experimental writers, but there's also a mix of the more kind of popular types as well. Where will the Nobel Committee go? No, we'll go tonight. No one really knows. It's really hard to predict. There's always a bit of a fun game of predicting, but, you know, we shall see. But let's have a bit of a closer look at the top 5 of the winners and top 5 candidates, and then we'll have a quick look at them. So we have Can Zhu is the most popular favourite. Some people think she's a 1 in 8 chance of winning this prize. And Can Zhu is a Chinese, whose real name, Can Zhu is a pseudonym or a pen name. I think it means something like dirty snow. Her real name is Deng Xiao Hua. Sorry if I've got that pronunciation wrong. But she's quite an experimental writer from China, a sort of avant-garde fiction writer, which breaks the mold of more realistic patterns of fiction writing in China. In her writing, apparently, I have not read her, and I actually was looking in the local library for Can Zhu, but had no luck at all finding it, which was a bit of a shame. The unconscious often dominates conscious thought. Among her books are Dialogues in Heaven and New Century Love Story, and she's been dubbed by some the Chinese Franz Kafka, one of my favourite writers, I must say. So I have a bit of a soft spot, and I do, in a way, hope Can Zhu becomes the bookie's favourite for the prize. Then number 2 on the list is a Norwegian author, John Foss, and I'll just slightly adjust my little image here for one. If you give me 1 second while I play around with things. There we go. John Foss. I'll just move that a little bit down there maybe. And John Foss is a Norwegian writer. He's a big writer in Norway. He's written novels, short stories, poetry, children's books, essays, and plays. He's done the works. He's even advised on the translation of the Bible in Norway. He had a long struggle with alcohol misuse and was indeed hospitalised. He hospitalised himself in 2013 to deal with it. I don't know how he's gone since. And among his books are Scenes from Childhood, 2018, and Melancholy 1 and 2, 2023, at least translated into English in those years. I think he's won a big award or been nominated, shortlisted for a big award like the Man Booker International, which also might be a sign that he might be in the running. Okay, the third writer we have here is Gerald Murnane, an Australian writer, no less. And I'll just move myself out of the way there. And he is a Melbourne writer, just like me. And he was quite famous for actually not sort of moving outside of Melbourne very much. He also is quite an experimental fiction writer. He often brings attention to the nature of the storytelling, the nature of the narration he tells, and often turns very, ordinary experiences into almost philosophical, metaphysical kind of meditations using this kind of prose. And one of the things he also makes him a bit different is he was a great follower of horse racing, and in fact I think includes quite a bit of that in his books. I think my favourite book of his is a book called The Plains, but there have been a number that I've read. I'm just a bit sorry I didn't get them down. Oh, I think we're actually getting sort of close here. I'm just monitoring things. Seems like people are sort of starting to move into position there at the Nobel Prize. There you can see everyone hustling the journalists into position. I better just put my earplugs in just to make sure I don't miss the announcement. Okay, so then we also have Anne Carson, who is a Canadian poet, essayist, translator, classicist, and professor. And she has a distinguished career as all of those things, but particularly also translating many of the great classical Greek poets. She's a bit of an academician. There have been a few winners of the Nobel like her, but I think it would be a bit of a surprise to see her go forward. And then the fifth on the list is Ludmila Ulitskaya, who is a Russian or Belarusian writer. I feel she might not live in Russia now, but I'm not sure. She was born in 1943, grew up in Moscow, and her early career was in the sort of Soviet just checking things there. The Soviet, in the Soviet Jewish drama theatre. Her first novel, Sonitchka, was published in 1992, and she's been quite a popular author, especially through the 1990s in Russia. Part of the, liberal sort of scene in 1990s Russia, and I think she is a possibility, especially if some of the sort of international politics spills into things, although I have a feeling at the back of my mind that she has some close associations with the Russian oligarch in exile, Mikhail, or who's fled the country, Mikhail Khodorkovsky, which is not a personal recommendation. Okay, what about some wild cards? We've got 12 minutes to go until the official start. I will just maybe Flip over to nope. There you go. I clicked the wrong button on the OBS system. It's been a while since I've done a live stream, I gotta say, and there's quite a lot of technical stuff you need to do to get it running. So I hope no one sort of screamed off in rage about all of that. Anyhow, in the edit of this letter, you will not have to see it in my summary. So some wild cards. Let's see. There's a possibility that Salman Rushdie might win. I have a vague feeling that I haven't seen this on any list, but I think the Russian writer, highly acclaimed Russian writer, Mikhail Shishkin, might be a possibility. He's a bit like Ludmila Ulitskaya, a writer who got going in the early 1990s and who is highly critical of the current regime in Russia. So I think that might stand him in some standing, at least with the more political edge of the Nobel Committee, although I do hope they really don't go there, if nothing else, because the Nobel Prize has been, the literature prize has been a little bit dominated, I think, by Europeans and others in the last 10 years or so. I think it would be good to see someone from Asia, non-English, non-European winner. I mean, Annie Ernaux won last time, and she's a great winner, a very commendable winner. But then there was Louise Gluck and Olga Tokarczuk and Svetlana Alexeyevich and quite a few others, and even like Gernard, who won before Annie Ernaux in 2021. From kind of Tanzania, Africa, but also very much the experience of a British migrant writing in English. So I kind of personally hope we have someone from out of the Anglo-American, West European sort of world, and also that the Nobel doesn't go down the sort of very heavily politicized kind of route, or potentially politicized route. So Mikhail Shishkin, though, is, I think, a wild card. Others mentioned have been the Hungarian novelist Peter Nadas and Albania's Ismail Kadari. And on Twitter earlier today, I actually heard a few people suggest another Russian writer whose name I can't remember. I'm just going to quickly check this. And I also published a poll on Twitter earlier tonight, and I'll just tell you what the results of that have been, if indeed anyone has voted on this. Andrei Makin was the Russian writer, and so my Twitter poll suggests 50% people are going for Can Zhu, and 50% are going for Haruki Murakami, the Japanese author, who I think was in the kind of 10-14 to 1 sort of range, and we shall see. I think I have a kind of feeling that the prize may well go to an East Asian writer. I'm sure they don't sort of, it's been a while really since they have, and I'm sure they don't sort of really sort of allocate, this is this year for Africa and this year for Europe, but there has been a little bit of a criticism of the bias of the Nobel towards Europe and towards English language writing. So hopefully that will be remedied this year. And Can Xu apparently has had some very successful books in there you go. Make sure you mute your phone. So it sounds like we're just a couple of minutes away. It sounds like they're running on time. They're going to be punctual, and once the clock strikes 1, which is 10 p.m. here in Melbourne, Australia time, so we just have a couple more minutes. Let me give you a couple more minutes of commentary then. So I think we may well have that sort of Asian writer, African maybe. I think it's Nigerian author Ngui wa Thiongo has been a common recommendation for a few years. There's also a couple of Latin American writers who are in the list, like Cesar Era and Elena Poniatowska, Homero Alricis. A bit of a crowd favourite might be Paul Simon of Sounds of Silence and Simon and Garfunkel, who is 49-1 on the odds. That's a possibility. You never know. Popular choice, maybe. But I think the other sort of wild cards I've heard mentioned have been some people have been looking at the Nobel. Somehow they can analyse what's in the Nobel Prize Committee's library, and some of those people are predicting that the prize will either go to a Norwegian or a Chinese writer this year, because those have been particularly prominent, as well as John Foss and Can Xu. Two others that have been mentioned are Dag Solstad and CC. And yeah, there you go. I don't know. I don't think Gerald Murnane would win, but it would be a kind of strange symmetry if he did win 50 years after Patrick White won the Nobel Prize. And maybe if you're watching this stream, I've later. Oh, hang on, we've got a bit of chat here. We've got Bart saying it doesn't matter where the winner is from, the best should get the prize. That's absolutely true, but I guess there are many factors in there. Russia has got a lot of good writers. That's absolutely true. And quite a number of Nobels have won from Russia. And Murakami should get it for Kafka on the Shore and the Wind-Up Bird Chronicle, not for his more recent work. I've tried reading, I think it's IQ84 and enjoyed it for a while, but I must try Murakami again. So thanks for those recommendations, Bart V. And yeah, I hope the Nobel Committee is not politically correct anymore. They've done quite a few things in the last few years to try to improve their process a little bit. But, it's always, there have been big controversies over the years, like the Boris Pasternak and I guess Solzhenitsyn in a way, and Bob Dylan and Dario Fo. I did a podcast, which is also available on the YouTube channel. I see. Bart V is saying IQ84 was not good. It's pronounced Q-teen84. Okay. Q-teen84. Thanks for that advice. I will try Kafka on the Shore and the Wind-Up Bird Chronicle, and I might even report back on the channel. So I'm really delighted that you've given me some advice here, and here come the announcements. Just a quick comment, of course, the YouTube translation of some of these comments are hilarious. Mistranslation. just taking a picture of my own price here. Now's Good has been recommended by Bart TV. Well, I like all those writers, so maybe I'll like him too. So I think John Fosse was one of the second most predicted on the booking markets, and some people were suggesting that Norwegian or Chinese rider was a possibility. I think the individual interviews they don't broadcast. Is that correct? Yep, there we go. Alrighty, so we might just put this away and we'll go back to the main camera here. Actually, we'll just go here and we'll close that, and then we'll open that and we'll go to something I prepared earlier. So there we go, John Foss. He was born in 1959 on the west coast of Norway and is the recipient of countless prestigious prizes. I'm just reading here from Fitzcarraldo editions that have published John Foss in English, and they look very fine books there, quite long books, but I will potentially check them out. And he's written prose, poetry, essays, short stories, children books, and over 40 plays. So he's a dramatist, and but V on the stream recommends says he's a good choice. So while also suggesting that is it Carl Nausgaard? I think it's Carl Nausgaard. I can't remember now. I've got him here somewhere. Carl Ove Nausgaard should be the next Norwegian writer, but we'll just pop on back to John Foss. So yeah, he is or has practiced pretty much every form of writing there is, and some of the authors that were mentioned as influences there, like Thomas Bernhard, who I've read quite a lot of, Samuel Beckett, and I think it was Treichel, the German poet, if I heard him correctly, the sort of symbolist, modernist poet of the early 20th century. So I think those are all strong recommendations for John Foss. Now, unfortunately, I don't know anything else about John Foss. If there's anyone on the stream who's got a strong view on John Foss, do let me know. But I think if maybe people can throw in any comments or questions and I will answer them, but otherwise we might sort of wrap the stream up now. But what I can tell you is tomorrow night in the podcast I will include edited highlights of this live stream, and I will also sorry, I've lost my page there. I might actually just go back to our sort of plain old straight camera, like that. And I will also provide a bit more of a commentary on John Foss. I might even be successful in obtaining a book by John Foss tomorrow, although I doubt it. I did try to check him out in the local library. I wasn't successful. I might try some more other sources as well. So I do hope you've enjoyed the live stream. A couple of reminders or comments. You can subscribe or join or follow my free weekly newsletter at jeffrich, jeffrich.substack.com. Comes out every Saturday. I call it the fragments of the burning archive. I look at some of the curious things I've seen around the world in imperial rivalry, in social issues, in cultural issues, and in larger, longer-term political issues. I try to steer clear of the day-to-day, melodramas of politics, although inevitably they do intrude a little bit. I also have a website, theburningarchive.com, where you can find about my books, including 13 Ways of Looking at a Bureaucrat. You can see it there with a picture of Mencius, the great Chinese writer, philosopher, on the front cover. And so do like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and follow me on my Substack, and make sure you listen to the Burning Archive podcast, which covers culture, history, and the conclusion of my sort of 5-episode series on the Nobel Prize will be coming out tomorrow night. I've got 24 or a bit less than 24 hours in which to research at least 10 minutes of useful content on John Foster. At least I know how to say his name now. And otherwise, if there's no more questions or comments, thanks so much for joining me on the live stream, and I will see you soon in another video about history, culture, and the world as we find it when we practice mindful history. Check you later. Cheers, Bart.